History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. A memorial of life, life lived for the country, life of inspiration and lessons. Remembering Winston Churchill.
Who is Winston Churchill? Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born on November 30, 1874 at Benham Palace, Oxfordshire, England. He died on January 24, 1965 in London. This fine gentleman was a British statesman, orator, and an author who, as Prime Minister, rallied the British people during World War II and led his country from the brink of defeat to victory. After a sensational rise to prominence in national politics before World War I, Churchill acquired a reputation for erratic judgment in the war itself and in the decade that followed. Politically suspect in consequence, he was a lonely figure until his response to Adolf Hitler's challenge brought him to leadership of a national coalition in 1940. With Franklin D. Roosevelt and Joseph Stalin, he then shaped Allied strategy in the World War II. And after the breakdown of the alliance, he alerted the West to the expansionist threat of the Soviet Union. He led the Conservative Party back to office in 1951 and remained Prime Minister until 1955 when ill health forced his resignation. A Churchill veins run the blood of both of the English-speaking peoples whose unity in peace and war it was to be constant purpose of his to promote. Through his father, Lord Randolph Churchill, the meteoric Tory politician, he was directly descendant from John Churchill, the first Duke of Marlborough, the hero of the wars against Louis XIV of France in the early 18th century. His mother, Jenny Jerome, a noted beauty, was the daughter of a New York financier and horse racing enthusiast, Leonard W. Jerome. The young Churchill passed an unhappy and sadly neglected childhood, redeemed only by the affection of Mrs. Everest, his devoted nurse. At Harrow, his conspicuously poor academic record seemingly justified his father's decision to enter him into an army career. It was only at the third attempt that he managed to pass the entrance examination to the Royal Military College, now Academy, Sandhurst. But once there, he applied himself seriously and passed out 20th in a class of 130. In 1895, the year of his father's tragic death, he entered the 4th Hussars. Initially, the only prospect of action was in Cuba, where he spent a couple of months of leave reporting the Cuban War of Independence from Spain for the Daily Graphic in London. In 1896, his regiment went to India, where he saw service as both soldier and journalist on the northwest frontier. Expanded as the story of the Malacan Field Force, his dispatches attracted such wide attention as to launch him on the career of authorship that he intermittently pursued throughout his life. In 1897 to 1898, he wrote Sabrola, a retired romance, and got himself attached to Lord Kitchener's Nile Expeditionary Force in the same dual role of soldier and correspondent. The River War brilliantly describes the campaign. In any ancient time, a man of Churchill's force and talents would have left his mark on events and society. A gifted journalist, a biographer and historian of classic proportions, an amateur painter of talent, a narrator of rare power, a soldier of courage and distinction, Churchill, by any standards, was a man of rare versatility. But it was as a public figure that he excelled. His experience of office was second only to Gladstone's, and his gifts as a parliamentarian hardly less. But it was as a wartime leader that he left his indelible imprint on the history of Britain and on the world. In this capacity, at the peak of his powers, he united in a harmonious whole his liberal convictions about social reform, his deep conservative devotion to the legacy of his nation's history, his unshakable resistance to tyranny from the right or from the left, and his capacity to look beyond Britain to the larger Atlantic community and the ultimate unity of Europe. A romantic, he was also a realist with an exceptional sensitivity to tactical considerations at the same time as he unswervingly adhered to his strategical objectives. A fervent patriot, he was also a citizen of the world. An indomitable fighter, he was a generous victim. Even in the transition from war to peace, a pace in which other leaders have often stumbled, he revealed at an advanced age a capacity to learn and to adjust that was in many respects superior to that of his younger colleagues.
We are all united not only in our desire to pay our respect to Winston, but rather in our need to do so. For such was his extraordinary appeal to the tens of millions of people taking part in this service all over the world who never actually met him, feel that they too lost someone close to them in the early hours of Sunday morning. It is a more remarkable tribute for our loved one's great leader that I can ever offer here today. In ages to come, centuries and maybe millennia after us, people will think of this generation when this man of courage trod on earth, and will think of us who, however small, could also follow his path and tread the holy ground where his feet had been. All over the world, a standard bearer of the rights of the truly downtrodden, a very British gentleman who transcended nationality, someone with natural nobility who was classless and who proved in the years that he needed no title to continue to generate his particular brand of stronghold. Many of you will not need to be reminded, but some, the younger among you, the inheritors of his master strokes for freedom, may be glad to be told that your country and mine and all the free countries of the world stood at the very gates of destiny in 1940 and 1941, when the Nazi tyranny threatened to engulf us, and when there was no second front except our own. This was the great crucial moment of modern history. What was at stake was not some fury of the government, but the whole and personal freedom of men and women and children. And the battle for them was a battle against great odds. The battle had to not be won not only in the air and on the sea and in the field, but in the hearts and minds of ordinary people with a deep capacity for heroism. It was then that Winston Churchill was called by Almighty God, as our faith makes us to believe, to stand as our leader and our inspirer. In a sense, the whole of Churchill's previous career had been a preparation for wartime leadership. An intense patriot, a romantic believer in his country's greatness and its historic role in Europe, the Empire, and the world. A devotee of action who thrived on challenges and crises. A student, historian, a veteran of war. A statesman who was the master of arts of the politics, despite our being in a long political exile. A man of iron constitution, inexhaustible energy, and a total concentration. He seemed to have been nursing all his faculties so that when the moment came, he could lavish them on the salvation of Britain and the values he believed that Britain stood for in the world. On the day Britain declared war on Germany, Chamberlain appointed Churchill on his old post in the charge of Admiral. The sign went out to the fleet, Winston is back. He scorned to the fall into either category, and he was right. With courage, the matchless eloquent and human understanding, he inspired us to lead us to victory. In the whole recorded modern history, this was, I believe, the one occasion when one man, with one soaring imagination, with one fire burning in him, and with a one unrivaled capacity for conveying it to others, won a crucial victory not only for the forces, but for the very spirit of human freedom. There are two things I want to say to you, on a day which neither you nor I will ever willingly forget. One is that Winston Churchill was not an institution, but a man of wit, a chuckling humor, a penetrating understanding, not a man who spoke to us as from the mountaintops, but one who expressed the simple and enduring feelings of ordinary men and women. It was because he was a great Englishman he was able to speak for the English people. It was because he was a great Commonwealth statesman that he was able to warm our hearts, inspire courage right around the seven seas. It was because he was a great human being that in our darkest days, he lit the lamps of hope at many firesides and released so many from the despair of chains. There had been nobody like him in our lifetime. We must and do thank God for him and strive to be worthy of his example.
Hello everyone. I am Mary, the youngest daughter of the late Sir Winston Churchill. In behalf of my family, I am sending my heart to those everyone who came to remember my father. I want this moment to be a remembrance of his passion and his endeavors. He might be childish, annoying, and insensitive sometimes. Many of you might experience that. I remembered when he suffered his depression. Instead of prioritizing his own, he prioritized the welfare of our own country. I believe that many of you would remember him as the passion-driven, determined, and persistent man. And amidst all of the darkness and the challenges our country has passed on and fought, he is there. To my dad, I would surely miss you. To my siblings, Randolph, I hope that you would come to forgive our father. Maybe being a leader is really a two-edged sword. You could put restraint on your family to be responsible for your work. Maybe he really insisted us to follow his lead. And I know really that you don't want it. I hope that you could really forgive him and give him the peace that he needed. As a father, he is loving and enthusiastic, but at the same time, maybe unconsciously, he puts so much expectations on us. Because of that, my memories with my father is the one who hold me to be the woman I am today. I think I am the one who followed after his lead. I remember when my cousin Jude and I joined the ATS to fight for our country during the World War II. I became the personal secretary of my father, the aide de corps. That is when I knew that I idolized him. Through his speeches and his determination that carried the whole country and fight for our sovereignty. My father, I will forever have you in my heart. All your teachings, I will take guidance that would serve as the trailing for my success in life. Long live your legacy for the people, for the future of this country. I promise you that I would continue what you have started. One day, when we meet again, I hope that you would welcome me with your warmest hugs and kisses. I really miss you. Rest well, and I love you dearly. Salute.
To the youth of tomorrow, I believe that up above, the passing of one of the greatest men ever lived who is a visionary leader and the one who never gives up amidst the chaos and disaster, is a light that is passed upon you, all to serve as a challenge and an inspiration. He successfully freed Britain throughout the end of the Second World War. I believe that the children of today could lead the world and make it a better place.
Life will surely throw rocks and make you feel like you're falling. Be still and keep on moving. Just because success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Be a kind that flies highest against the wind and not the wind.
You have the power to write your own history. Hand a grip and write it with courage, determination, and persistence. For Sir Winston Churchill once said, "My tastes are simple. I am only satisfied with the best." Do not ever be afraid of making the wrong decisions in life. For the greatest lessons is to learn that even fools are right sometimes. Attitude is such a little thing, but it makes the biggest difference. To change is to improve. To change often is to be perfect.